Welcome back to the Beet Cooks On. I'm Felino, Samson, the chef at the Beet restaurant here on Nantucket. Today is a tutorial on butchery. We are introducing a new product here at the Beet. It's a Piedmont strip loin, originally bred in Italy, in Piedmont, which is the northwestern part of Italy. And it's now being bred here in the States, the same way Wagyu is being bred here. This exceptional beef high-end product, we are bringing it to you here at the Beet. We're gonna just jump right in and start in on the butchery. So let's say you went to Costco and you bought this giant piece of meat, a New York strip. From examining it, what we're gonna do is trim it up and clean it up first. On the underbelly here, okay, so let's talk about the New York strip. New York strip is from the lower back of the cow. It's on the part of the hindquarters. It's like your lower back if you're the cow. And the front end is actually the chuck part, which has like this really wider. It has a little piece of sinew in the front and it tapers out. This product is beautiful. The eye is very round and very thin layer of fat on top. It's really nice. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clean up the underbelly. This is where all the ribs were attached to this strip loin. It's called a strip loin or a New York strip. So what I'm gonna do is with a small, tools, very important. We use these curved edges when you're butchering. That way you're able to get a nice slice and you get more use out of your knife, okay? So we're just gonna trim this up. I'm gonna take off the little pieces of sinew. Usually when you go to an inexpensive place, you know, one of those chain steak places, they usually will just take something like this, leave the fat cap on, and just go chop, 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 and that's your steak. But here at the Beet, we kind of take a little bit more care in the butchering, and I'd like you to see how we do it here. Okay, we're gonna take off the rib attachment. It has a little bit of sinew to it. Gotta watch your hands when you're working with butchery. It's pretty good. You don't need to take every part of it off, but the major pieces. And that way you get a cleaner, you know, sometimes you get a steak and you're like putting big parts of it on the side because they're parts that you don't really eat or can't chew because of all the sinew or fat. We don't do that here at the Beet. We give you pretty much the whole steak is edible. Okay, this is pretty clean. Okay, so next part. So there's a tip side, which is the skinnier piece in the front, and this is the fatter part of the back, which is closer to the center of the backbone. What we're gonna do is trim this off, the skinny part, because that, when you cook it, is gonna overcook. So what you're gonna do is just take your blade and straight across, cutting about, and you're looking where the loin starts to thicken, that's where you wanna cut, okay? Because all this is really just gonna overcook, and it's not going to be much use. What I take for this little piece is still perfectly good. You don't throw anything away. You trim that up, and you can do stir fry. You can do, you know, if you're braising something, this beautiful braise, and it's like or even grind it for burgers. It's delicious. Okay, took that front piece off so you get that nice thick shape, and then you go to the back. A lot of people don't even pull this. It's called a chain, and these little holes right here, these little indentations, shows you where it is. I can actually just take my finger and pull it back. Let me flip this over again. You can see it more in the front. There's an actual separation of the meat right in the front. And I'm gonna pull it, kind of using the sinew. Okay. And I'm not really putting much pressure on the knife, and it's gonna come straight off. Okay. And the same thing with this. Okay, beautiful meat, great for a burger or for a stir fry. Okay, so when you look underneath, it's pretty clean. All this is a little bit of fat on top, but there's no sinew, and that actually will help keep your steak moist, so I leave that on. Okay, so most of the sinew, if you get a trim steak at a steakhouse, like a proper steakhouse, they will leave the front end with just a quarter to a half an inch of fat. And most of the gristle is here, and this is really trimmed up, and then they'll come across and give you a little bit of fat. But here at the Beet, we give you a pretty clean steak. So we're gonna take all that off, and it's gonna take me a few minutes. Okay, and this is silver skin, which is a really white tough sinew, and you're gonna slide your knife underneath, and you're going to press up against it, because you don't want to take any of the meat with you. So you want that thin piece of silver skin to come right off. Look at that, no meat, straight back. And I'm gonna just take a few minutes and clean this out. Okay, now that this is all cleaned up, it's ready to be cut. You can cut it normal, like in 1 to 1.5 inch steaks straight across. But here at the Beet, we do club steaks because we want it thicker, and it will keep the steaks a little juicier. Okay, so this is the whole prime strip, and this faces the front. You can tell this is towards the chuck because you will get this V-shaped piece of meat in the front, and there's a little bit of sinew that runs there. There's nothing you can do about it, but when I cut it into a club steak, I can kind of play with it a little bit. So I'm gonna take my knife and face it here. I'm gonna go straight across. And there it is, okay? So just from me taking it to this part, if you look at the meat, it's definitely a lot leaner than what we're used to as far as grain-fed beef. This is actually, this product the Piedmontese cows, it's a grass-fed steak. You know what, let's put a piece of this to start cooking so we can try a little piece. So basically we're gonna whack, 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 and you get beautiful steaks. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is turn up my pan, get it hot, only a little bit of coarse salt, because you don't need anything else. You just want to taste the clean flavor of the meat. Okay, got this hot. I'm gonna just start it. Okay, and that's gonna take just a few minutes on each side. I've had this steak traveling in Italy. Most of the steaks in Italy is definitely a lot less marbled, but for some reason, because of the breeding, it's a lot more tender and it has a lot more beefier flavor. Okay, so let's talk about the breed and this cow. Okay. It's a white grayish color cow imported to the United States in the 1990s, bred here and purely grass-fed. They originally in Italy, they didn't eat a lot of beef the same way it was in Wagyu. They used a lot of the cows as work animals. So these animals just were in the fields, they ate the grass, they worked the fields, and they grew big and muscular. So this breed of cow, originally a work animal, and especially this breed of cow, normally cows grow and they grow this enzyme that makes them stop building muscle. For some reason, this type of cow, this Piedmontese cow, does not have that enzyme or doesn't grow to produce that enzyme. So what happens is they just keep growing and growing and growing, more muscular over time and over time. And it's a leaner steak. And what happens is the protein actually builds up in the meat. So per ounce, you're getting more protein out of the steak and less fat, but at the same time, you're getting a big, beefy flavor and less fat. Okay, so we're going to cook this. Okay, usually, the more you cook steak, the more tender it gets. And what we're gonna do is just cook this a little bit under rare and taste it. Just taste the actual meat. Okay, we're gonna turn this off. Let that finish. Okay, so this is just seared for a couple minutes on both sides. It is rare, okay? And when you eat steak, you wanna see what it's like with all the juice in it. So we're letting it rest for about a minute. And when we cut into it, we're gonna try it. The more you cook steak, the proteins actually in the cooking process makes it more tender. That's why some people like steaks to medium. It just makes it more tender. But I don't know about this steak, but from just touching it, it's a lot softer than any of the steaks or the strips that I've butchered in the past. So I'm expecting this to be really tender. Okay, so, okay, here we go. I cut in. Okay, that's how every steak I've gotten in Italy has been that rare. It's warm to the touch, but it's definitely rare. And we're gonna taste the piece. Wow. This is so tender. I think of filet mignon. It's that tender. And at this rare stage, to chew like that, normally you get something that rare, you're chewing it. This just melts and breaks down. There's no sinew. You don't have that fatty mouthful, but it's super beefy and it's super clean. So here at the Beet, we're offering this new Piedmontese beef through the month of April. Part of our job here is to source new high-end products for you. It's a great deal, and it's a great product. And that was a short butchery tutorial here at the Beet. I'm Felino Samson, coming to you from the Beet Cooks On here on Nantucket.